Hi everyone, and welcome to the second video in the series. And in this video we're just going to start with a very basic material node, and we're just going to cover the height input and how black and white affects these values. So what I've done is I've gone along here and I've added this node which is the base material for a PBR sort of graph. So I did that just by clicking in anywhere in here and pressing space, and you can now use your keyboard to sort of search. So I've done PBR, and it's just this base material here. So that's what it is. I'll just do that one as I've got this one, and you'll notice that it has some outputs initially, and you probably recognize some of the names in there. And if you click on it and get the property view, you can see kind of the general attributes and properties of this node. Typically we want to kind of keep most of these by default. One thing I do want to do is just come back over to this node and right click and click view in 3D view, which will then kind of make sure that anything I do to affect the properties on here I can see immediately, as this is rendered in real time. And that kind of helps me see the changes I'm making. Now what we want to do is we want to build this the detail of this material up by sort of creating an interesting height map. And the way we do that is we scroll all the way down here. We need to make sure that the user defined maps for the height, which is at the bottom, is set to true. So if you just click on that, and you'll notice that we now get a little dot to connect things, and if you hover over it, it says height. So it says used to create a base material PBR material with options to work in metal, rough or specular glossiness workflow. So that's what that is, and height is where we're going to start editing it. So what I want to do is now just press space again, and I'm going to search for shape, and I'm just going to add a very basic shape node. And you'll notice the second we add a new node, it comes up in our 2D view and it comes up in our properties, which is good because we want to edit these. And we can change all sorts of things. We can change the type of shape that we have here, but we're just going to keep it on square for now. And we can scale it, and we can see in the 2D view that the size of that shape is sort of changing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it at about 0.8, something like that. It doesn't have to be pin on, but just so that we've got this black border around. And I've done this basically because I want to highlight the way in which black and white works with height maps. And this is a generalized approach, but also specific in this instance. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to left click on the output of our shape, and I'm going to drag it over to the input of the height onto our material, and we can see immediately that that has made a difference in the height of this material. So it now looks like it's got something that sticks up out of it, and the shape of that responds or reflects rather the shape that we have here. And if we were to change this, we can see that changes completely. We can completely get rid of it and have the entire base at that height, or we can move it back. So somewhere around there is probably fine. Now in Substance Designer and in many maps, we use a range between the color black and the color white. So that includes all types of sort of light grey, medium grey, dark grey, to inform the height. So by default we have a maximum height that we can achieve, and that value is reached when the color is white. Now that sounds quite confusing, but we can see it quite easily on our 3D view. This is lower than this, and that's because this is black and this is white. And maybe an easier way to enforce this kind of idea is if I just add another node and I actually do an invert grayscale node just here. I can put it anywhere really. and I'm actually going to connect the output to the input of this, and we can see that all it's done is just switch the black for the white. So the invert grayscale inverts all of the colours. So anywhere between white and black, it will change it to the opposite value. And I'm now going to replace this connection with a connection from here to here. And what you should notice is that now where the white of this shape was higher, because we've inverted it to black, it's now lower. So here we can see that the white bit around the border is now higher. Now that seems very, very basic perhaps now, but as you get onto more and more complex maps, or as we add nodes like grunge nodes or noise or anything like that, you need to remember that white is higher than black. So if you are making terrain, for example, the top of the mountains on your map would be white and the ground level would be black. Okay, so that's really kind of how height maps work, how black and white color maps work. Yeah, so let's move on and start getting a bit more detail into our material.